Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. Yeah, let's go. We are about to start a new Mishnah in Bava Metzia, Daf Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph. Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph. We're learning the halachas of a shoyel and other shoymerim. What's the halacha if a person borrowed an item from his friend, and then after he borrowed it, at some point the item all of a sudden out of control. It's absolutely not the borrower's fault. However, the borrower still has to pay, right? That's what the Torah says. Kol ano shaloi, the borrower must pay. We are welcoming everybody here in Avos Shalom in Beth Shemesh. We are welcoming everybody in Torah anytime. Kol halashon in our own YouTube channel. I want to correct something I said last week. It was just a slip of a tongue. It came out as if I was saying, and it sounded like that a soicher is a shoyel or a shemer-socher. That's obviously wrong. A soicher, a person who rented, a renter, is either shemer-socher or shemer-chinam. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah, is either shemer-socher or shemer-chinam. It's a very famous machlokes. Rabbi Meir. Sorry for the mistake. Yeah, it's a bit scary when you give shiur online. Many people listen, so I'm telling you there was a mistake, as I'm sure people know. The shiur is l'nishmas tov imori Menachem ben Akiva l'nishmas en Yaresha bas Elchon Anitzchok l'nishmas tov bas Moshe Ruth bas Sholem Rochel bas Avrom l'refuas Penina Chai bas Geula Rochel l'refuas Aviva bas Devoiro l'refuas Erik Yitzchok ben Miriam Gabriel Tzvi ben Miriam ben Keren. Yes, says the Heilige Mishnah. The Mishnah we're about to see today, it says Zayin Amud Aleph, has to do with shoyel, but now it's a very, very different subtopic of shoyel. The topic we're going to see today is about when a person wears both hats at the same time. A person may be on the same item, both a shoyel and a soicher. How could that be? We're going to see. And there's an argument between the owner and the, let's call him keeper as a general name, regarding, if an animal died and it was be'oines, out of control, perhaps a heart attack, I don't know, not a good example. And all of a sudden, we don't know if the person is a shoyel and therefore is liable, or is the renter a soicher and is not liable for oimsin, right? Let's see how that could happen. Says the Mishnah, a shoyel es a poro she'ol chatziyoim v'socho chatziyoim. A person borrowed a cow, and it was prearranged in such a way that for, let's say, the first half of the day, he doesn't have to pay. He has a morning session to plow with the cow, and he has an afternoon session. Now, in the morning, he's supposed to get it as a shoyel, as a borrower. In the afternoon, he pays for it. In other words, he's both. In the morning, the cow is given to him for free. In the afternoon, the same cow stays by him, and then he pays for it. And then he's a soicher, he's a renter. Now, you all know that if the cow is going to drop dead, not because of work, just the cow is going to die in the morning, if it happens in the morning, let's say between 9 and 1, then the cow is dead out of oines, he's a shoyel, he's a borrower, he has to pay. If the death occurred, that same kind of sudden death, not my fault kind of death, would happen in the afternoon, he has to pay. However, you define soicher, he has to pay for oines, right? Okay? And of course, the question is, when did it happen? That's the question. Question mark on the time. We're going to show the screen soon to our viewers online. The question is, when did the cow die? When the person has the status of a shoyel, so you got to pay. Or did it happen when it's called a soicher, so it doesn't have to pay? That's a question. That's case number 1 out of 3. Now case number 2. Shalo hayoim v'socho lemocho. Same, very similar. Let's say Sunday the cow is borrowed for free, and therefore his liability is higher. Monday, the same cow stays by him. Now, with the status of a soicher, he has to pay, and he does pay for Monday. And what happened on Monday? Well, we don't know when it happened, but if it happened on Monday when he's a soicher, then he doesn't have to pay. And the question is, the cow died, and we don't know when it died, and therefore we don't know if he has to pay or doesn't have to pay. It all depends on time. Now, socher achas v'shoel achas. Okay, let's show the screen. It's already getting too interesting. Case number 1. Yeah, this is a cow. I don't know how to draw so nicely. So that's a cow. This is a watch. There's a question mark on the watch. When did he die? Did he die when he was borrowed or rented, hired? Chayav or potter. In the second case, or these are the first two cases. These are the first two cases, either question of hour or question of day. Now, the second case we're going to see now. Shalo. Now, socher achas v'shol achas. He borrowed two cows. Did it say borrow? Oh no. He borrowed one cow and he rented one cow. Okay. So now the Mesa, one of them died and one of them survived. We don't know if the borrowed one. Now this is not a time issue. They were both, they were both rented. One was rented for the week, the first week of Ben Azmanim, and the second one was borrowed for the same week of Ben Azmanim. It's just two different cows or cars. Yeah. So now, what do we say? One of them died. We don't know which one. If it's a borrowed one, he's got to pay. If it's a rented one, he doesn't have to pay. It's basically the same question in three different formats. Tosfos explains why we have to mention all three cases, but let's first just finish the sentence. Now, what was the case? Case number one. Hamashil, we're going to have four different now cases built on that case. Hamashil oimer she'ula mesa. Now, the mashil, who's the mashil? The owner, the one who gave it out. Of course, what does he say? He say, I know for sure, he says, that the one that was borrowed out of the two, I'm telling you, the one that died, the dead one, this is the dead one, that's the one who was borrowed. You got to pay. It's a she'ula, the borrowed one for free. She died. You have to pay me. And I know that for sure. Even though it happened in your house, I saw it. I was there. I saw that the dead one is the one that was borrowed. By the way, there are no signs. Yeah, it's not like we know that the black one was the borrowed and the white one was rented. No, they both look the same. It's a primitive place. They don't have those numbers on their ears. Yeah. We don't know whether Bessie was rented or borrowed, or Lucy was rented or borrowed. Okay, we don't. That's the reality. We're looking from the side. We don't know. All we can rely on is their claims and testimonials, so to speak. Comes the Mashal and says, I know that the one who died is the borrowed one. So you owe me money. You owe me that dead body. You owe it to me. Or alternatively, Mesa, Bayom Shoy Seshula Mesa. Or in the first case, you have a question mark on the time. Well, I don't. I know that the one cow that was borrowed for one day and was rented for another day, I know that he died on She'ula day, and therefore he got a payment. I know that. Now, or the third option, of course, the third case, I know that it happened in the first case. In the hour, let's say the morning time is borrowing time. I know it happened in the morning when it was borrowed to you for free, lent to you for free, and you got to pay me. And I know that for sure. Says who? Says the Bailim, the owner, claiming that he's owed the money because whichever variation, whichever story, he knows for sure. So he claims clearly and strongly. He doesn't have Eidim. He says, I was there and I know that the one who died or the time that he died was when it was borrowed, She'ula, so you owe it to me. What does the other side? What does the other side say? The borrower slash renter says, any of them, I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not sure whether it was the borrowed one or the rented one. I don't know. How's that called in Lashon Gemara? Bari v'shema. Whether Bari or different or is a question. It's called Bari v'shema. Very good. Chayav. It looks like we say Bari v'shema. In other words, the person has to pay. The borrower slash renter has to pay because it looks like, as Tzvi was saying, it looks like one who comes to Beis Din with assertiveness, with certainty, is what is going to be chayav, is going to win the case. The other one is wishy-washy, does know yes or no, and therefore the one who knows what he's talking about is going to take out money out of the pocket of the one who doesn't know. We're going to explain everything in the Gemara. That's case number one. Now the opposite case. Case number two, mirror image opposite. A soicher oimer, soicher is the one who rented and also borrowed. A soicher oimer, schura mesa, beyom shos schura mesa, b'shos shos schura mesa. Now comes, it's the same story. We have one dead cow and we don't know when it died, when it was she'ula or schura, or there were two cows who died. We don't know if the one that died was the schura or the she'ula. Now, the one who's coming with all certainty, very assertive, very clear is who? The soicher. And he says, listen, this happened by me. And I know clearly that he died in the time, during the time when I am potu, in the time when I was under paying time, when your meter was ticking on me, when I had to pay, therefore I'm potu. Or I know that the one who's died, the one, the dead cow, I know is the one that is schura, and I know that I'm potu. Now the toiveya, the plaintiff, the bailim says, Eini yodea, Eini yodea, but no, you may be wrong. I'm not sure, but I think that the one who died is actually the borrowed one. So it's again Bari v'Shema, and again potu. It's even less than a chiddush. Yeah. So this points out here the person who is the one holding the money. Who is that? The renter, right? You want to get out money out of his hands. Now he says the money is by me. Plus, I know for sure, Bari v'Shema, I know that the cow that died by me was the one that was rented, and I don't owe you anything. The other side says maybe it was the one borrowed. And therefore, again, even all the more so, we apply the rule of seemingly of Bari v'Shema, Bari odif. A person who knows what he's talking about wins the case over a person who does know what he's talking about, who is not sure about what he's saying. Seems to be that these are the first two cases. Tasha says we have both cases because one could claim all kinds of svaras we can have why the one holding the money will be the one with the upper hand. You can say the other way around, that the owner knows his cows better, and the owner knows which one was rented, remembers better. Yeah, you can say all kinds of svaras lachan ulachan, and therefore the Gemara, the Mishnah is telling me that in both cases, Bari v'Shema trumps over anything else, and Bari v'Shema seems to be the winning case. Whoever has the clear taina, and he knows for sure that this is the truth, whether it's the tovea or the nitba, in both cases, Bari v'Shema wins the case. So far, at least at this stage, that's what we think, and these are the first two cases. Case number three. Case number three. Both sides are certain. Loggerheads. Ze oimer she'ula v'ze oimer schua. Yeah, who says she'ula? Obviously the owner. The owner says, I know 100%. You know, the veins are already showing over here, yeah? He knows for sure that the cow was borrowed, the one that died, or at the time of death, he was borrowed. The other side screaming his head off, or just saying very assertively, no, I know for sure, says the user, let's call him this way, the user, the keeper, I know 100% sure that it was what? The one that was schura, the one that was for money, so I don't owe you a dime. Interestingly, the soicher, yeah, the one, the user, soicher shoyel, he has to take a shvua that what he's saying is right. Now that's not so simple because shvuas are not so cheap, and they're not, just on the go. It's not so clear why he has to be nishba. The Gemara will discuss it because Lamaisa is not a moidiv miktsas. It doesn't admit to anything at all, right? It doesn't admit. He says, yeah, really, well, what's going on here? When the owner said, you owe me, how much is the cow worth? 10,000 shekels? You owe me 10,000 shekels. You were a shayl at that time. You was a borrowed cow, you owe me 10,000. The other guy says, I owe you how much? 0. It's a call for bakol. Does the kofer bakol have to take shvua? Not midoraisa. Not midoraisa. Midoraisa kofer bakol, who denies everything, does not have to take any shvua, as we saw at the very, very beginning of the Masechta. And here, from some reason, he has to take shvua. Now, Rabbanon established a thing called shvuas heses, that a person who denies everything still has to be nishba. But it's not the Mishnah. Shvuas heses is not a Mishnah concept; it's an Amoraic concept. It's by the Meroim. So this cannot be shvuas heses. Yes, finally, no. It's at the end of. Excuse me. No, it's not shvuas hashemim. Shvuas hashemim is only when he's kofer in everything he says. You mean he has to take shvuas hashemim that it was really there was nanas. There was nanas, but that's not the story here. Because even if he's nishba that he's nanas, the other guy's still not happy. He claims, I don't care it was nanas. I say you're a shoyel. So just saying it was nanas doesn't do the trick. So that's not the shvua here. Nice point. 1 second, please. Fourth case, and with that we're done. The fourth case, well, what would be the other fourth case? When none of them knows. Ze omer eini yodea, v'ze omer eini yodea. They both come to Beis Din, and the Toyen comes a bit meekly and says, I think, I don't know, but maybe you owe me. Maybe you owe me because maybe at the time of death or the cow that died was a borrowed one. and the other side says maybe it was not borrowed but was rented, it was a seicher, then yechloiku. That's called mamon mutal besofik. Yeah. In other words, we don't say moitzim chaver levaraya. We don't say moitzim chaver levaraya. Everyone knows moitzim chaver levaraya. It's a machloikis. Yeah, machloikis in Bava and Involved in many other places. Yeah, Bavasa Kufnan Gimel. Yeah. In other words, yeah, a moitzim chaver levaraya is one concept. Machloikis sumchus and chachomim. Yeah, the other opinion holds no. When you have a situation of what mamon besofik, nobody's a Bari, nobody has any proofs. It's an in-between situation here. Nobody knows what's going on. They should split it. What do you mean splitting? That really the users should pay the owner half the price, and that's how they split it. Okay, you can ask basic questions on the Mishnah now. There's the Gemara. I just before we continue, I think there was something uncertain here. Again, in the third case that we had in the Mishnah, both sides were sure of what they were saying, right? Yeah, one side says for sure you owe me money because it was Shaul, and the other says no, I'm 100% sure there was Sochor. Why he has to take Shua is not clear, because he's really denying everything. And with the Oraisa, there is no Shua necessary here, and we're going to discuss it later. Okay? Why is there Shua? Still an open question. But first of all, today we're going to deal, in today's Gemara, we're going to deal with the first two parts of the Mishnah. What were the first two parts? They shared one thing in common, and that is what? In both cases, one side, either the Toivea or the Nitba, one side was sure of what he's saying, the other side was a maybe, right? It was a sure maybe. He swore it's a maybe. And then we say that the one that is the sure one, the Bari, the clear one, can even take money out of the pocket, and one that is uncertain without having any further proof. That's the Chiddush of the Mishnah. So it seems, and we're going to see how that works or it doesn't work. Let's see what's going on. Says, and by the way, I still owe you the Tosfos, excuse me. You remember, why is the Mishnah speaking about three cases? The Mishnah speaks about a case in which what? First of all, there was one cow with 2 times of the day, right? Then there was the same cow, Sunday it's borrowed, Monday it's rented. And then we have a third case of 2 separate cows. This is something very nice. We see clearly, as the cases progress, it's easier and easier to detect which cow is the one, what really happened. When it's the same cow, to detect between morning and the afternoon is harder. Sometimes you don't even look at your watch, right? It's the same cow. In the morning it's hired, in the afternoon it's borrowed, or the other way. It's hard to detect, right? And we still say that it's not called dror de mamoino. We don't say that we have a suffix here without their taina. It is dror de mamoino. It's a big question. It's a big question. Dror de mamoino is a term which we've seen a few times, that even without them opening their mouth in Beis Din, we really have an intrinsic question. What really happened here? It's more all meshed up together. The second case is a bit clearer. I can tell Sunday to Monday. I said Shiur Shel Yom today. So it's a bit of a less of a question, right? It's more up to their claims, not the question of itself. And the third case is even easier to detect, easier to differentiate and discern. It's 2 different cows. That's Bessie and that's Lucy. In all 3 cases, we ignore the severity of the suffix. Is it their suffix or is it a suffix for everyone around them? And we always apply the same rule of Bari v'Shema. So regardless of how strong as of itself, essentially, the suffix is, we always treat in the first 2 cases, and regardless of who's holding the money, wow, we always say, Bari v'Shema, Bari odif. The mere fact one guy comes to Beis Din certain with 100%, the other guy is wishy-washy, that alone, that does the trick. How does that work? Let's see what the Gemara says. Zog the Gemara, Shmas Minei, we can hear from the Mishnah, we can derive from Minei, from the Mishnah. The following story, Moneli beyodcha, one person tells the other, I have a money in your hand, meaning you owe me money, which is 100 zuz, yeah? You owe me money. The one that is being accused says, I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Not sure. Maybe yes, maybe no. Chayev. You see what? You should be chayev. According to what we said in our Mishnah, Bari v'Shema trumps what? Right? The fact that one person is certain, the other one is not, that alone shows us that one guy knows what he's talking about, the other one doesn't know. I want to just remind you that when people don't know, I want to remind you of 2 psychological factors that Chazal mentioned. Before you start asking your questions, I want to actually, I want to one-up you. First of all, because one could ask the question, just because one guy is certain, one is not, what does it show me anything? Maybe one is more of a confident schwindler. The other one is a tzaddik, is a Bisral Salanter guy, kind of, and he's choishesh. Well, the answer is no. First of all, the Mechlokes, as we're going to see, that there are two factors you have to take into mind. First, the Gemara says, first of all, usually when people have a claim against the other, they probably have some kind of claim. They may be right, they may be wrong, but chazaka, usually, there are schwindlers who do otherwise, even today, and it's terrible. We learned it in the Torah Rabboni course. There are people who do terrible things, they stamp claim against someone rich in order to get the money out, but it's not the normal thing. Usually, cheskas kashrus, as long as you know the person has cheskas kashrus, we don't assume a person stam latches onto his friend with zero tinus. He may misinterpret it, may be wrong, maybe this, maybe he's exaggerating, but stam azoi, a regular run-of-the-mill Joe Schmo, will not stam, legally attack another Joe Schmo. We assume with there's smoke, there's fire. Secondly, if a person is uncertain, it doesn't only show tzidkis, as the same psychology we used where? We used by moide b'miktzah. So when a person admits half the thing, why does he admit half the sum? Because he's a liar who wants to have his conscience a little bit quiet. Yeah, it's too much for you to lie completely. Most liars would mix a little bit of truth in the lie. The Gemara says much, much more that he wants to postpone. I'm not going now to all the details. I'm speaking generally now. So when you have a person saying certain and another person is saying, maybe, where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm being very general, but Batish now, there is room to say, strong room to say, the person comes with a claim, there's probably something here, and the person who doesn't know may be chayev, but feels too bad to just lie straight. There could be other explanations, but this is a valid explanation, valid logic. And that's what the Mishnah seems to be saying. The Mishnah says, one guy says for sure, the other one guy says maybe. The sure guy knows what he's talking about. The maybe guy, you got to pay. Yeah, you have to get your act together. If not, pay. Now, okay, that could be logical. But let us suggest that our Mishnah that says what? Bari v'Shema, Bari Odif, seems to be working against Rav Nachman. Which Rav Nachman? Excuse me. The Itmal. This is written at the end of Bava Kama, Kuf Yud Ches. Moneli biyodcho. A person comes to his friend and says, I have a money by you. You owe me money. I lent you or whatever. The other guy responds, the one accused says, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no, not sure. Yes, no, maybe so. So it's a mechloikes amoyroim how to treat that case. Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda amri chayev. Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda says he's chayev. Who's chayev? The one who's being accused and blamed is chayev, meaning Bari v'Shema, Bari Odif. Okay, Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda are very happy with their Mishnah. They can close the Gemara and go home. Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda say yes, Bari v'Shema. That alone, the fact that one guy is certain, the other guy doesn't give any contra, and we have all the suspicions in the background, chayev. So the one who really is here with a question mark is the weaker side, and he got to pay what he's got to pay. That's what they say. So they're good with their Mishnah. But who are we questioning? Remember, Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan argue on Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, and they say potu. They say no. This Bari v'Shema is potu. Says Rashi potu, or maybe Rashi says another. Rashi says it here. Uki mamani b'cheskas mali. In other words, it's very nice, all your logic and psychology, but at the end of the day, who trumps, who wins over? In other words, the Reisha of our Mishnah would be okay. But the second part of the Mishnah that says what? That moitzim chaveroi, if I am certain and you are a maybe, I can take money out of your pocket. At that point, Rav Nachman Rabbi Yochanan wake up and say, Adkan. Your psychology business with Bari v'Shema is very nice, but we believe that a moitzim chavero is stronger, meaning in order to eke out the money, to get out of money of the pocket of the one blamed and accused, no. For that, you have to have a real what? Edim. You have to have edim, you have to have shtar, you have to have real deal, real business. Just because you're certain and the other guy is, shaky, is nice, very logical what you're saying, but it's not enough to take out money of his pocket. Leave the money where it stands, as we always say in halacha. That's what Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Nachman, that's what they hold. So now, the second case of our Mishnah really doesn't work right with Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan. Because the second case of the Mishnah was, excuse me, that was the first case. I'm sorry, excuse me. The first case. I'm sorry. The first case of the Mishnah was that the lender slash one, the owner, is the one who claims, I am certain, I am sure, and I'm taking the money out of your pocket just because I know that the car was borrowed, and the other guy is a maybe. So you see right in the first case that the Metzia, right, lost to the concept of Bari v'Shema. Bari v'Shema trumps. That's against Rabbi Yochanan of Nachman, and sadly, Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan are Moroim. This is a Mishnah. So we're stuck right now. Yep. Bad news for Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Nachman. Answers the Gemara. So far, you just have to, in order to keep the calculation of the sugya, have a small window in the corner of your mind. Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda are happy. Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda are now kivyochol sipping their coffee happily. Yeah. They are good with the Mishnah. They're smiling. Yeah, Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, what did they say? That Bari v'Shema is the number one ace card. Yeah, that's a joker card. That's a good card that trumps over everything. And the Mishnah proves like them. Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Nachman are scratching their head, kivyochol. Now they have to find an answer how to explain the Mishnah. Let's see. Answers the Gemara. Kidom Rav Nachman, as Rav Nachman said somewhere else, Kigon sheyesh esek shvua beinehen. Esek shvua beinehen, meaning the reason why a Bari v'Shema over here is Bari Odif, you're wrong. It's not because of Bari Odif. In our Mishnah, we have to make an ukimta that this story, this guy, the shoyel slash soicher, the keeper, the user, let's call him the user, okay? The user, you know why he loses? Because there was another shvua, the way he claimed, the way he phrased his claim back to the owner required him to take shvua, and because he could not take the shvua, he has to pay. If you didn't understand it, that's good, because now the Gemara is going to explain it. I just translated. Hachinami, here too. Kigon sheyesh esek shvua beinein, which means, in the background, there is a shvua that's required midoraisa, on who? It's standing on the head of the shoyel, of the user. Because he cannot swear, he has to pay. Let's explain everything nice and slow. Hey chidami esek shvua, what's the story? Where do you have an esek shvua over here? Now everything will be explained. Listen to the following case. Before we continue, I want to remind you of the concept called Shema, Shin Mem Ayin. I don't mean what you said this morning and you'll say tonight. There are only 3 cases in the Torah that a person has to be nishba on money. Shin Mem Ayin. Remember, memorize that. Yeah? Okay. What's the first one? Shiur. Very nice. Shiur. A person comes, yeah, let's say I ask you to look after my beautiful, super expensive phone, 200 shekels, yeah, and you're shomer chinam, and then I say, hey, you were negligent, and you say, no, I wasn't negligent, I'm a shomer chinam, and I looked after it very nicely, and you're going to get off the hook, providing that you do one tiny thing called shvua. If you take a shvua, that's more in the Torah, we saw it, right? You take a shvua that you guarded it properly, speaking balabatishly, and then you're off the hook. That's what shoymrim. Mem, moide b'miktsas. Yeah, I claim that you owe me $100, and you say, no, I owe you 50. So then we claim that the Torah says, ki huzeh, this and not the other. When you admit to half or part of the claim, and you deny the other half, and this we have to focus on now, then we saw at the beginning of the Masechta, and we saw it in many other places, you have to take shvua, and there too, it's exeres hakasuv plus psychology. You're probably lying, but you're trying to buy time. Yeah, if it was a real clear no, you would have said no. You're probably trying to play games here. That's the mod miktsas. And ayin eid echad. If I claim you owe me $100 or 10,000 pounds, or I don't know what, you owe me your house. Yeah, not you. Okay. Yeah, and what? And I bring an eid echad. I bring one kosher eid. One eid is not good enough to do anything real to make you pay. But one eid is good enough to cause you do what? Take shvua. Shema Yisrael. Shoymrim moide b'miktsas and eid echad. Good, yofi. Now over here, you mentioned shvua shoymrim. But so far we didn't mention shvua. Up until now, we only spoke about either you pay or you don't pay. It was a very cruel game. Bari v'Shema, Bari, Shema. The Bari guy prompts, and he takes the money from the Shema guy. Well, Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Nachman don't believe in that. So why does he have to pay? Listen to this. Moneli beyodcho. let's say a person tells his friend, you owe me money, you owe me $100,000, I don't know. The one claimed, the one taken to court says, only 50, half the amount, not 100,000, but 50,000, yeah. Oh, interesting. This is a kmoide b'miktsas deluxe. Moide b'miktsas with a twist. In other words, he's not saying, I owe you 50 and I don't owe you 50. Yeah, he says, I owe you 50 and the other 50, weiß ich nicht, I don't know. That is what he says. So now, mitzad echod, the fact that you are moide b'miktsas, once he said about 50% or less, by the way, that you owe, yeah, that is the catalyst to make you pay, make a shvua. But how can you make a shvua? Make a shvua what? On a maybe? You can't make a shvua on a maybe. You can make a shvua that it's a maybe, but you can't make a shvua, yeah, that shvua has to be on something real. What I told you before was shvua hesses was something, one second. Bashar eini yodea. Bitoch shenechol lishova mishalem. There is a concept, B'cholat or Kula. We have a famous case in Daf Lamedalid over there in Bava Basra. If a person cannot take Shvua, then he has to pay, which means when we put the onus of Shvua on the person and the person cannot take Shvua, he can't just go home. It's either Shvua or Meshalim. You're now stuck, like Bilam's donkey. Remember Bilam's donkey? At some point, there's a point of, there's no room to wiggle anymore. Yeah. In other words, if you can't be Nishba, you got to pay, baby. There's one of the two. And therefore, again, when there's a claim of 100, there's a claim of 100, yes. You chayev shvua, yes, because you admitted on 50. Once you say, yeah, I owe you 50, I'll give it to them next week. Okay. What about the other 50? I don't know. To say I don't know is not a normal claim in Beis Din. Right? Even if you swear that you don't know, it's not good enough. Because if you said I don't know, it's not yes or no. We have to have a yes or no response here. You're like a lawyer. What does the lawyer tell you in court? Yes or no? There's no maybe. I don't accept maybes. And therefore, let me speak, please. And therefore, in such a case, because you cannot swear on I owe, or you cannot swear on I do not owe, usually be I do not owe, then you can't swear on one of the clear boxes, yes or no, then the other option you have to pay. And therefore, one second, we're going now to use the whiteboard and the explanation, Bezos Hashem, to say that according to Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan, the case over here, the reason why he has to pay is not because of Bari v'Shema, not because one guy comes to Beis Din all assertive and the other guy is a jelly. That's not why he has to pay. He has to pay because here there is, as we're going to see, there are either 2 cows in the first case or 3 cows. In other words, there was a case of he denied something, he admitted to something, right? And then he said maybe on the other one. If he denied one, he admitted on, I'm getting confused with the next, if he admitted to one thing and then said maybe on the other thing, that's why he has to pay. Not because he's a Shema, because he's Chayev Shvua. Once you admit to a part, you put your foot into it, you're in the trap. You said, I moide on part of it, you're now in the Shvua trap. Now you're saying maybe on the other side, it gets getting worse and worse because you can't swear on a maybe on a clear way. You can swear it's a maybe, but you can't swear what the Torah wants you to swear. When the Torah wrote Kiyuzeh, he has to be nishba that he doesn't owe. Get what I'm saying to me? You have to be nishba that you don't owe. If you cannot nishba, I do not owe, el oni nishba is I do not know, nice rhyme, no, then you have to pay. Because once you're in the pay or swear mode, nowhere to run, mister. And that's why he has to pay. And now the Gemara is going to reread the entire Mishnah, and that's why I made the picture here to explain it, and soon I'm going to clear the background. Why we have a case here again of a person that's claimed against. He is Chayev Shvua, because there was one thing he admitted to. Again, before you ask your questions, I just want to make it clear also to our viewers online. Yeah. Up until now, let's take the first case. We thought up until now, there's one cow. Mr. Balabai says, I know that this cow died, heart attack, fibrillation, I don't know, something happened to it. When he was Shaul. That's it. But the other guy says, maybe, I don't know. What do we say? Oh, it belongs to the Tovea. Now we say no. We're saying, as we're going to say now, there were 2 cows. There were two cows, and both cows died, as we're going to see. And on one cow, he admitted, that really the cow was shown. He died while he was borrowed. Both cows were half day borrowed, half day rented. Yeah, both cows. Says Mr. Borrower, I admit. Oh, once you admit, woo, you chayav shvua. What about that? He remains with a question mark. I don't know. You don't know. Shvua, you chayav shvua. Why? Because you admitted on half. Once you admitted on half, we catch you, you chayav shvua. But you can't be nishba because I can't be nishba on a maybe. You can't be nishba that you don't owe because you don't know. And therefore, you do owe, and therefore you have to pay. That's the answer in a nutshell. And in this story, we're going to have three cows, as we're going to explain soon. I'm okay with questions, but I think it'll be smarter if you listen to the example of the Gemara first. Unless you have urgent questions, really, or no. Let's see how it develops in the Gemara, and then I'll be very open to your questions, I promise. Mashkachas lo. Now, let's see how we find such a case. Reisha bebeis, we're in the fourth line of Tzadiches Amud Aleph. Reisha bebeis, the first two cases where the questions regarding the time, whether morning, afternoon, or Sunday or Monday, must be there were two cows. The Seifa begimel, the second case, or the last case of the Mishnah, when there were one cow borrowed and one cow rented, we must say there were two borrowed cows and one rented cow. Let's see how it works. Reisha bebeis, the Gemara actually here gets very clear and elaborate. Some people say that this piece is not from the Gemara because it's too elaborate for Gemara style. They say it's one of the Geonim who added it to the Gemara. Yes. Reisha, yeah, unbelievable. Reisha bebeis. Look at the following case. Everything will be very, very clear. The Amalei says who to who? The plaintiff, the owner, comes. My cow died? Huh. My prized cow died. Really, there were two cows who died. Ooh. And he says, I gave you two cows. Don't get confused. Both cows are half-halves. Both cows were borrowed in the morning and rented in the afternoon. The status is the same regarding both cows. Okay, inami, or the third case, the second case, excuse me, both cows were Sunday in an expensive mood. Sunday I was nice and generous. The she'ela, Monday you had to pay. On both cows the same status. The Mesut Avayu, and both cows, Baruch Danu Emes Zichrono Livrocho. And I'm telling you, the Eden she'ela, and I'm telling you that I know that they died at the time of she'ela, or in the second case, the one who was shoel died. So you owe me your shoel. Yeah, there were status of she'ela when they died, and I know that for sure. And there are two claims here, because he's claiming that on two cows. On the first case here, there were two cows that were both, in his opinion, shoel, and they both died. The Omer Le Shoel responds, Mr. Shoel. Listen to this, and that's very crucial. Chada, in one of them I admit, I'm a good, nice, honest person. Chada, yes, on one of them, true. The Eden She'ela Mesa. One of them, yes, he died when he was shoel. In the morning, let's say, and that's when he died. And yes, I owe it to you. I admit that I owe half the story, which is one cow. The idach, what's the idach? The other one, very good. The idach lo yadana ibidin shela mesa beibidin schus mesa. The other one, I don't know. He moves uneasily in his chair in Beis Din and says, I don't know if he died at the time of she'ela or the time of schirus. I'm in a question mark over here. What do we say? Aha. The fact that you admitted on this cow, regarding this cow, you are now in the booby trap called shvua trap, because now you have the nice, beautiful status of moide b'miktzas, which every child knows is chayiv shvua. You chayiv shvua, but you can't be nishba. You chayiv shvua that you are potter, but you can't be nishba if you're potter, if you claim that you yourself don't know. If you can't take shvua, then you pay. At some point, there's just no other way. And therefore, and that's why he has to pay. That's how he has to pay. Soon we're going to see why that was a very good answer for Rav Nachman. But let's first learn the second case over here, the Seifa. The Seifa is the same concept, but we just have to have more pieces on the board now. The Seifa, Begimel, there are 3 cows. One of them was clearly rented for money, and the other 2 were borrowed without money. The Omerle comes Mr. Owner, all angry to the user, and he tells him, Gimel pors nosati lecho, I gave you 3 cows, base b'she'elo v'achas b'schirus. 2 cows were free of charge, one of them was for money. V'meisu hani tarti de she'elo. Those that died, well, we don't know which one's which. Well, I do. I know that the 2 cows that died, yeah, I can see that brown one with a white spot, the other one with brown with a white spot. I can tell you that those 2 that died, I know my cows. Those who died are the ones borrowed. You're shoyel on them. They died by oinus. Okay, you got to pay. The Omer li shoyel comes Mr. Shoyel, and he says in Chad de She'ela Mesa, one of the borrowed, let's say this is dead. Yeah, let's say, okay, these are both dead, and this is dead, live, and dead. Okay, and now he says like this: Chad de She'ela Mesa. I agree with you. I admit that the one who died is a borrowed one. One of them I admit. The other one was live. Yeah, the other one is live, one is dead, and we don't know which one's rented, which one's borrowed. That I don't know. Idach, the other one, lo yadana. It is she'ela mesa. I don't know if the one that's dead is the borrowed one, but the kaima dischiusi. What's the kaima? The one alive, the one existing dischiusi. Or I don't know. Maybe the other way. It is dischius mesa. Maybe the one that is dead is the one of the schirus and potu. Maybe the kaima the she'ela. The one that's alive is the one borrowed, so I don't have to pay you. Same story, really. It's just one more play in the game. But when you really think of it, it's the same thing. He admitted to one. Admitted? Chayav shvua. Now you play the game of not knowing dead, live, rented, borrowed. You know, like these games in the newspaper or the children's exercises book, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you have A, B, C, D on the other row, right? That's what he's playing here. We don't know which one's which. You don't know. I'm so sorry, you don't know. Let me just review. Let's review now. And I'll be happy to hear your questions. Let's review. We saw in the Mishnah situation in which the Taina, the Toyin, the plaintiff, the Tovea says, I know what I'm talking about. And the other guy meekly says, yes, no, maybe so. So Ravuna and Rav Yehuda happily will say, look, the Mishnah is on our side. Bori v'Shema, Bori Adif, black on white. Says Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Nachman, they say no. Usually, regularly, had there only be 1 cow, 1 issue, 1 thing only, and he says Bo and he says Shema, no, there would not be. He would not have to pay 1 dime because the Metzia Mechavero overrides Bori v'Shema. If I hold the money and I'm a maybe, you want to take the money out of my pocket and you're a bar, it's not good enough. What's Pshat in a Mishnah? What's Pshat in a Mishnah according to Rav Nachman Rabbi Yochanan? Very clear. No. That's another story. Because they're making Nukimta here. Because there was an additional part of the story. There was another cow or another cow over here, which means there was a claim against about 2 cows. That's very nice. Now, 1 cow he admitted to. The user admitted, yes, 1 cow died and he was Sha'ula. And he died and I owe you. And I'll pay to you next week. Not now. There's a reason why I'm saying it, by the way. And the other one, I don't know. Either one he doesn't know or between the 2. Because you have to be nishba. And you, according to your own time, you cannot be nishba. You yourself say you don't know that you are potter. If in a situation of having to be nishba, you either nishba or you pay. We feel bad for you. Maybe you're a very honest guy. Maybe you're a really honest guy and you're really so ehrlich and you're so scared. But moment is maybe we don't. Nobody is only on Novi over here. But Lemaisa, sorry. If you can't, you chayv shvua? Yes, because you admitted. You highly suspected something's fishy over here. You admit to have, yes. You have to be nishba, that's din d'oraisa. I didn't make it up. Now, says Rove, you cannot really be nishba on a maybe. You can't be nishba with your potter. You can be nishba with a maybe, and nishba with potter. You can't pat yourself by shvua. The only other way to pat yourself is to actually pay from your own pocket, credit card, bank transfer, or Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency. But you got to pay. Very good. With all the variations, that's what we said. And that's why we have a case, according to Nachman Rabbi Yochanan, of a person not knowing, and that's why he has to pay. It's not because of Bari v'Shema. It's because of mitoch she'ein lo yochel lishava mishalem. That's the crux of the answer. Very Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, questions and comments are welcome now. Break. Continues the Gemara to apply the same concept to another Tana called, we're in the middle of the page here in Tzadi Ches Amud Aleph, Rami Bar Choma. Line starts with the word Bar Choma. What did Rami Bar Choma say? Rami Bar Choma said as follows: the Omar, Dalit Shoimrim Srichin Kfira b'miktsas Voido b'miktsas. Let me explain what that means. We spoke about 3 Shvuas D'Oraisa, Shvuas Shoimrim and Shvuas Moide b'miktsas and Eidechod. Leave Eidechod alone. The Shvuah of Moide b'miktsas, that if you say to your friend, I owe you 50 and 50 I don't, then you chayav shvuah. That story applies to lenders, right? To lenders, to depositors, anybody, right? Apparently, if you remember, in Parshas Mishpatim, the words ki huzeh, the words that describe actually moed b'miktsas, they appear in the middle of the story of the Shomrim. Ki initial rare kesef kelim, yeah. If somebody gives his friend something to look after, then the Torah talks about the moed b'miktsas, the shvuah on half the money. It's mentioned in the middle of the parsha of the Shomrim. Says Rami Bar Choma. Rami Bar Choma says a big chiddush, a huge chiddush. He says like this: it's not by chance that the Torah, as we call in our scrollies, juxtaposed, the Torah merged or juxtaposed the 2 parshas together. It's more than juxtaposed. It's mamish written. It's inserted actually in the parsha of Shomrim. You have the parsha of Moed b'miktsas. You know why? He says a shomer only has to take shvuas shomer. What's shvuas shomer again? Shvuas shomer means I treated it nicely. If I'm a shomer chinam, I wasn't posher. If I'm a shomer sochar, yeah, not gneva v'aveda. Yeah, if it's a shoyel, it's mesmach. He says it is mesmachas malacha. Now, all these shvuas only apply. You know when? He only has to take the shvuah if he's also moed b'miktsas. Wow. According to Rami Bar Choma, a person only has to take shvuas shoimrim if there were 2 items, or let's say 1 big item, and there's a claim against 2 items, let's say, to make it clearer, and 1 item he's koifer, and he says, no, you never gave it to me, you're talking nonsense. The other one, he partially admits, and partially he says, what? He says, really, I was good with it. According to Rami Bar Choma, you have to have always 3 factors. He denies something, he says on the other one, yes, I owe, I admit. On the third one, he says, I'm a good boy. You gave it to me, but I looked after it properly. Only then is chayav shvuah. Unbelievable. And we're going to see how that plays into action. I don't think it's going to happen today. Again, let me just say one more thing to make it easier for you. Up until now, if you noticed, the first opinion, which I think you all chap nicely, says if I'm moed b'miktsas, I'm chayav shvuah. What about the other half? Either I say I don't owe you to, and I'll swear that I don't owe, or I say maybe, and then I have to pay it. Rami Bar Choma says no, the other way around. Rami Bar Choma says you only chayav shvuah of moed b'miktsas if you koifer in something. If there's no kfira involved, you don't have to take shvuah. Yeah, the only 3 answers you can give a yes/no answer. You can say yes, no, or maybe. Right? I agree, I deny, or a maybe. Says Rami Bar Choma, you only have to take shvuah if you say I deny. If you deny part of it, then you chayav shvuah. Okay, you deny part of it, and then you have to admit the other part and say maybe on the 3rd part, and only then you chayav. According to Rami Bar Choma, you have to have 3 cows at least. You have to have 1 cow that says yes, 1 cow no, and 1 cow maybe, and then you'll be chayav shvuah. And in the other case, you're going to have 4 cows, but that will be tomorrow. Now, one more point I want to point out. Sometimes my examples are exact and precise, and sometimes they're not. I don't know if you noticed. Whenever I said that the person admits that he has to pay part or half or something, he says, I'll pay you next week, I'll pay you later. I meant what I said. Because if you remember, if you have good memory from the very beginning of the Masechta, yeah, now towards the end of the Masechta, not exactly. If the person says, let's say Tzvi, owe me $100, yeah? He says, Akiva, I owe you $50, and here they are. And you give him the 50 right away, and you deny the other 50, you don't have to take Shavuah. Why? It's called Heilach. No, that's regular Moed b'miktsas. That's why you do have to take Shavuah. Fakert. Heilach means that really you admit and you pay me right away, then you close the case. Now the other 50 is kill a whole new case which you fully deny. And if you fully deny me the rights, you don't have to take Shavuah. It's called Heilach. It's a famous din beginning of Masechta. We'll discuss it more tomorrow. And also Rami Barcham will be tomorrow, Emir Hashem. And maybe we see Mashiach coming very soon. We don't have to fast on Tisha B'Av. I'll hear our questions very soon. Thank you to everyone on Torah Anytime, Kol Lashon on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Atzlocho. Have a great day. Mashiach soon.